Picture this. You've heard people say this one piece of software let a single person build things that used to require a 50-person team. You've seen the headlines, the crowds lining up just to get it installed. Someone at a major tech conference literally comparing its rise to something that took 30 years to reach the same level of adoption in a fraction of that time. So you go try it yourself. 20 minutes later, you're staring at a wall of red error text. Your terminal is yelling at you about a missing module, and you're wondering if this thing is actually for regular people or only for engineers who already know what a daemon is. Here's the good news. It's for regular people too. You just need someone to walk you through it properly, in the right order, without skipping the parts that actually matter. That's exactly what this video is going to do. Before we get into it, if you find this kind of practical, step-by-step walkthrough useful, go ahead and hit that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe. It really does help this channel keep making videos like this. Okay, let's actually get your AI agent running. The tool we're setting up today is a self-hosted AI agent gateway. In plain language, that means you run one process on your own computer, and from that moment on, it becomes the brain that connects to an AI model of your choice and lets you talk to it however you want, whether that's through a browser window or straight from an app you already use every day like Telegram or WhatsApp. Unlike a lot of AI tools you've probably tried, this one lives entirely on your machine. Your data, your history, your settings, all of it stays local, aside from the actual thinking part, which goes to whichever AI provider you decide to connect. Now, before you touch a single command, there are 3 things you need to have ready, and getting these sorted first will save you from almost every headache people run into. The first is a fairly recent version of a certain JavaScript runtime environment. Don't worry if that phrase means nothing to you, we'll check it together in a second. The second is an account and an API key from an AI provider. Think of an API key as a personal password that lets this tool talk to an AI model on your behalf. And yes, this usually means a small usage-based cost, though it's often just a few dollars for regular use. The third is simply a working terminal, which is just a text-based window for typing commands instead of clicking icons. If you've genuinely never opened one before, don't panic, we'll cover exactly how to open it in a moment. Let's start with checking whether your computer already has what it needs. Open your terminal. On a Mac, you do this by holding down the Command key and pressing space, then typing the word terminal and hitting enter. On Windows, the smoothest experience actually comes from running this inside a Linux-style environment built into Windows itself, and we'll explain why that matters in just a second. On Linux, you likely already know how to open yours. Once your terminal is open, type in a simple version check command for the JavaScript runtime. If a number comes back that's 22 or higher, you're already set. If nothing comes back or you get an error, you'll need to install it first, which the setup script we're about to run can actually handle for you automatically in most cases. Now, here's an important decision point, and it's one that trips up a lot of people, especially if you're on Windows. If you're on Windows without that Linux-style environment set up, stop here for a second and set that up first. It genuinely makes the entire rest of this process smoother, because the background service that keeps your agent running long-term behaves far more reliably inside that environment than in a raw Windows setup. It only takes about 10 minutes, and Microsoft's own documentation walks through it clearly. Once that's done, come back and continue from here. All right, assuming your environment is ready, it's time for the actual installation.
If you're on macOS or Linux, or inside that Windows Linux environment we just talked about, you're going to run a single-line installer command in your terminal. This one command downloads and sets up the tool for you automatically. If you hit a permission error during this step, that's extremely common and nothing to worry about. It usually just means your system needs the command run with elevated privileges, so try adding the word sudo before the same command and run it again. If you're on native Windows without the Linux environment, there's a separate installer command for PowerShell specifically. But before running it, Windows has a built-in safety switch that blocks locally run scripts by default. You'll need to loosen that restriction slightly using a specific PowerShell command first, then close and reopen PowerShell so your system properly recognizes the changes before moving forward. Once installation finishes, there's one very common issue that catches people off guard, so let's deal with it right now before it wastes your time later. You try to run the tool's main command, and your terminal responds as if it's never heard of it. This almost always means the location where the tool got installed isn't on your system's list of recognized command locations. The fix is straightforward. There's a small path adjustment you add to your terminal's configuration file, and after that, the command works exactly as expected. If this happens to you, don't assume the install failed. It almost certainly worked. This is purely a location recognition issue. Now here's the part where a huge number of people quietly go wrong, and it's the single most important concept in this entire video, so pay attention here. Installing the tool is not the same thing as setting it up. Installation just places the program on your computer. It does nothing else on its own. If you stop right here and try to use it, absolutely nothing will happen, and you'll be left wondering if you did something wrong. You didn't. You just haven't reached the actual setup step yet, which is a completely separate process called onboarding. So let's talk about onboarding, because this is where your installed tool actually becomes a working AI agent. You're going to run the official onboarding command. And critically, you want to include the flag that installs it as a background service, not just run it once and forget it. Without that flag, your agent only runs while that specific terminal window stays open, which means the moment you close it, everything stops. With the flag included, the system properly registers it as a managed background service, similar to how other long-running programs on your computer start automatically and keep running quietly without you thinking about it. Running this command kicks off a guided wizard, and this is genuinely the easy part, since it walks you through everything step by step. First, it'll ask which AI provider you want to use. If you're unsure, a widely recommended default is a mid-tier model from one of the major providers, since it strikes a strong balance between capability and cost for most everyday tasks. You can always add other providers or switch models later. This choice isn't permanent. Next, it'll ask you to paste in that API key we talked about earlier. This gets stored securely on your own machine in a protected folder with restricted access permissions, so only your own user account can read it. After that comes something genuinely fun, your agent's personality and behavior file. The wizard generates this automatically, and it essentially defines how your assistant behaves and communicates. You can absolutely customize this later once you have a feel for how it responds. Then you'll reach the channel selection step, meaning how you actually want to talk to this thing day to day. You've got options here, and each has its own trade-off. One popular messaging platform is often called the easiest starting point because it only requires a simple bot token with no phone number involved, making it the fastest one to get working in the moment.
Another major option requires scanning a QR code to link your existing account, which takes slightly longer, but keeps everything inside an app you probably already use constantly. A third option involves creating a bot through a separate developer portal for a popular community chat platform, which is great if you're already active in servers there. If you genuinely have no preference right now, it's completely fine to skip this step entirely and come back to it later once you've spent some time getting comfortable with the basics. Once onboarding finishes, you should have a properly running background service. Here's how you confirm it's actually alive and not just quietly failing somewhere in the background. Open your browser and go to the local address the setup process gave you, which by default runs on a specific local port on your own machine. If a clean control interface loads up in your browser, congratulations, your gateway is genuinely running. Type a simple message into that interface, something like asking it who it is and what it can help with. If you get a real, coherent reply back, everything is properly wired together. Your model connection works, and your setup is officially functional. If instead you connected a messaging channel during onboarding, go open that app right now on your phone and send your new agent a message. Ask it something simple and real, nothing complicated, just enough to confirm the whole chain actually works end to end. Before we move on, let's quickly cover the 5 setup problems that trip up more people than anything else. Because if something isn't working, chances are it's one of these. The first is command not found. If your terminal doesn't recognize the OpenClaw command, don't panic. In most cases, the installation actually succeeded. The problem is simply that the installation directory isn't included in your system's path. Once you add the correct path and restart your terminal, the command should work normally. The second is using an outdated JavaScript runtime. OpenClaw requires a modern version, so if your version check reports anything lower than the recommended release, update it first before troubleshooting anything else. An older runtime is one of the most common reasons the setup fails before it even starts. The third is an invalid API key. If onboarding accepts your key but your agent refuses to answer questions, double-check that you've copied the entire key correctly, that it's still active, and that your AI provider account has access to the model you've selected. The fourth is the gateway service refusing to start. This usually happens because the service wasn't registered correctly. Permission settings prevented it from launching, or an earlier failed installation left behind an old service. Running the onboarding command again with the background service option usually fixes the problem. And finally, there's the dreaded port already in use error. By default, OpenClaw starts on a local network port. If another application is already using that same port, the gateway can't start. Simply stop the conflicting application or configure OpenClaw to use a different available port, then launch it again. If you've checked all 5 of these and everything looks good, there's a very high chance your setup is working exactly as it should. And now we can move on to the final security recommendations before you start using your new AI agent every day. Now, a word of caution here, because this matters more than most tutorials bother to mention. By default, this tool requires an approval step before it responds to messages from people it doesn't already recognize, and that default exists specifically to protect you. Leave that setting exactly as it is, unless you have a very specific and well-understood reason to change it.
Similarly, the local address your agent runs on is set to stay private to your own machine by default, and that's intentional too. If you ever think about exposing it more broadly so you can access it remotely, look into a secure tunnel method rather than simply opening it up to the wider internet, because that single decision is where a lot of otherwise careful setups quietly become security risks. One more genuinely useful thing before we wrap up. Once your agent is running and responding, you'll eventually come across an entire ecosystem of add-on skills other people have built, things like browser automation or deeper system access. Some of these are excellent. Some carry real security considerations you should think through before installing them, since you're essentially trusting someone else's code with meaningful permissions on your machine. The simple rule that experienced users follow is this: spend your first week just getting comfortable with the basics and building trust in how your setup behaves before reaching for the more powerful, higher permission add-ons. There is no rush, and a stable, simple setup is worth far more early on than a fragile, complicated one. And that's genuinely it. You've gone from a completely empty terminal to a real, working, self-hosted AI agent that you can talk to from your browser or directly from your phone, running entirely under your own control. If this walked you through it cleanly and got your agent actually talking back to you, that like button and a quick comment genuinely help this channel grow, and hitting subscribe means you won't miss the next practical guide. See you in the next one.